So how many of you know what you just saw? I'm going to expect a very slim minority of you know because it's not being covered. Not one drone, not two. Over 300 were just unleashed. A massive attack. Lisa cover for you yesterday. Mar-a-Lago's been breached. F-16 scrambled multiple times. Shots fired outside the White House. A traitor identified. And now Biden's banned. Do you know all the moving parts that are occurring right now? They may very well shape our immediate future, not our distant future. Last month, President Trump bypassed Europe. He bypassed NATO and the entire, what many would call the post-war order, and they're not standing for it. The minute he opened up conversations with Russia, all hell broke loose. And now last night, literal hell broke loose, and I'm going to cover all the elements of this story for you in just 1 minute. So I'm not going to cover everything that I've covered for you in prior broadcasts or Lisa's cover for you, including the gunman shot by Secret Service. Or Tariq Johnson, who I've heard no updates, but I'm going to give you a small update here. Remember a gun made it into the White House somehow? Everyone's silent on it. Him calling out the USCP chief Thomas Manger. Well, now there's your record. In Capitol Hill, RO observed a suspect place a backpack through the X-ray screening post in a White House in the House office building. Observed an apparent handgun. The suspect was detained. But it was all BS, right? Never happened. It did. So much of what's happening behind the scenes, they just don't want you to believe is reality, but it is a harsh and could be deadly reality right now. We are on the brink of peace talks. Today, as a matter of fact. Ukraine will propose a limited ceasefire during talks with the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. But you see, this has all happened before, hasn't it? There's been many discussions of peace talks, and they've all broken down. And why did they break down? Who broke them down? I want to see how well you know your history here. So put it in the comments, and then we'll discuss it further. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, National Security Advisor Mike Walls, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andrei Sybiha, I think I got that right, Ukrainian President Office head all to Saudi Arabia to have this peace talks, but it is disrupted. I'm going to tell you why. Starmer knows Ukraine must avoid a ceasefire in any peace talks. Starmer knows Ukraine must avoid a ceasefire in any peace talks. And it will test Trump's loyalty to his allies. Trump's loyalty, huh? Interesting way to state that. F-16s, again, scrambled above Mar-a-Lago. How many times are we going to have to cover this? General aviation aircrafts, of course. Elon Musk attacked his X platform. But by whom, I wonder? On the brink of peace talks. Suddenly, X comes after a coordinated, large-scale cyber attack. And guess by whom? At least as Elon Musk is claiming. IP addresses originating from Ukraine. They want peace, huh? Just a portion of the story. Just a sliver of the story. I'm going to go in great detail on this. I'm even going to expand this broadcast further and give you the precursors to how many times Ukraine and Russia were near a ceasefire. Peace talks. They popped the bottles of champagne because they had it all done. But who came in and stopped it from moving forward? Again, I want to see it in the comments because we're going to cover that as I extend this on even further. The podcast goes longer, more details for those of you that desire information and background as to some of the positions that we cover here. I invite you to go to Restricted Republic. It's one means of supporting us. Those of you who simply subscribe here, that's one means, and I can't thank you enough for that. Those of you who add comments and feedback, that means the world to us. Those who've put up super thanks, it's a great way to make sure these lights stay on. Those of you who've joined as members to help keep these lights on, because I know each month I can rely on you for that support. And those of you who've taken the additional step and gone to Restrict the Republic, join our family there, watch these extended broadcasts. Those of you that desire information, and I try to keep it as impartial as I can, just give you what happened. Used history to determine the news. Facts researched and referenced. No commercials, no interruptions at Restrict the Republic. Just stone cold hard facts. And Lisa and I work day and night to provide that for you. I hope you go to restrictedrepublic.com today. You can cancel at any time. We don't hold anybody hostage. We know our news should be more than enough to always keep you there so you don't get the million notifications and the sleight of hand that the mainstream media does to try to wire your brain instead of just using the facts to determine what's happening. I love you all. Now let's kick on with this broadcast. So a few updates to provide you first. Marco Rubio announcing that the 6-week review of USAID programs is concluded and they are canceling 83% of the programs. The 5,200 contracts, he states, that are now canceled spend tens of billions of dollars in ways that do not serve and in some case even harmed the core national interests of the United States. In consultation with Congress, we intend for the remaining 18% of programs we are keeping, approximately 1,000, to now be administered more effectively under the State Department, under the eye of the Trump administration. Thank you, DOJ, and our hard-working staff who worked very long hours to achieve this overdue and historic reform. But wait, Rubio and Musk weren't getting along, right? They were fighting the entire time. Elon Musk, tough but necessary, good working with you. The important parts of USAID should always have been with the Department of State. I guess that's what they were working towards, and I guess that's what nobody wanted, huh? Against the better interest of the United States. Brings us to our next story, the spies who lied. Those security clearances now officially revoked. Tulsi Gabbard announcing this. Per POTUS directive, I've revoked security clearances and barred access to classified information from Antony Blinken, Jake Sullivan, Lisa Monaco, Mark Zaid, Norman Eisen, Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, and Andrew Wiseman, along with the 51 signers of the Hunter Biden disinformation letter. The president's daily briefing is no longer being provided to former President Biden. Biden has been banned. What's this leading up to? Why suddenly making it all official? Well, the world is on the brink of disaster. And there's too many leakers. There's too many of those who had their hand in the breakdown of peace talks to begin with. War with Russia. Sounds like a great idea, huh? President Trump making this announcement from Air Force One.
Look, we have to have peace. And I'm doing this. Money is one thing. We're going to lose. We spent $350 billion on this. But the big thing, human life. Thousands of people this week. Thousands of young soldiers died this week. Hundreds of people died in cities in Ukraine. And we got to get it stopped. It would have never happened if I was president, and it didn't happen. This was not going to happen. I think we're going to have a good result in Saudi Arabia, meaning they're hosting the various talks. And we have a lot of good people going out there, and I think Ukraine's going to do well, and I think Russia's going to do well. I think some very big things could happen this week. I hope.
Did you hear that? We're going to have a good result in Saudi Arabia. Some very big things could happen this week, and unfortunately, they just did. But not the things that Trump was hoping for. Almost as if someone didn't want these peace talks to go well. They wanted to break them down once again. And I'm going to get there. It's a headline story, not being reported, no one mentioning it. But we have people showing up to help out Ukraine as always. My least favorite senator, one of many least favorite senators, unfortunately from my home state.
Hey folks, just met with President Zelensky a little while ago. Told him how I feel the American people are really behind him in this struggle, and Russia brutally invaded Ukraine, and Putin is a war criminal, should be.
Russia brutally invaded Ukraine. Those words didn't age well after last night's events now did they, Mark? Mark, I've always had a problem with him, never trusted his commitment to this country. There he is in Ukraine, meeting with the officials, just after everything Trump's trying to do. You're going contrary to him and standing in the way of the political process, in my humble opinion. Just left Ukraine. What I saw proved to me we can't give up on the Ukrainian people. Everyone wants the war to end, but any agreement has to protect Ukraine's security and can't be given away to Putin. Can't be a giveaway to Putin. Let me talk to you about my trip and why it's important we stand with Ukraine, my least favorite line lately. Elon Musk making the accusation, you are a traitor. Mark Kelly responding, Elon, if you don't understand that defending freedom is a basic tenet of what makes America great and keeps us safe, maybe you should leave it to those of us who do. Ooh. So sorry, Mark, did we upset you? Because you're standing in the way of the peace process? I was going to play another clip from him, but he obviously disdains what's happening when he calls it a dumpster fire of diplomacy. The only winner in that exchange is Putin. Boy, isn't the storyline always Russia? Russia, huh? What was Russia standing in the way of? What is Trump now standing in the way of? And why are they both now public enemy number one? Why are we so concerned about F-16s having to be scrambled over Mar-a-Lago? This security of the president himself. Because he's standing in the way of something that they have pushed for years. And to make matters worse, right? Ukraine, they just want a ceasefire. Oh, yeah. Elon Musk, speak on that, please.
There was a cyber attack on X today, which shut it down and may have been foreign sourced. Yes. It's a big story. You want to give us a moment on that?
Well, we're not sure exactly what happened, but there was a massive cyber attack to try to bring down the X system with IP addresses originating in the Ukraine area.
So right on the doorstep of the peace talks, all of a sudden a massive cyber attack hits with IP addresses originating out of Ukraine. But, oh, they want peace. Everybody out there wants peace. Starmer wants peace, right? Starmer knows Ukraine must avoid a ceasefire in any peace talks, and it will test Trump's loyalty to his allies, this article states. Starmer laid out a course towards a peace deal, not a ceasefire. Very specific there. It is at odds with every signal that has come from the Trump administration. It is in opposition to everything Trump is working towards. Starmer wants to set the terms of the peace deal, but it is not a ceasefire. Second, we agree that any lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security, and Ukraine must be at the table. Third, in the event of a peace deal, we will keep boosting Ukraine's own defense capabilities to deter any further future invasion. Is it defense capabilities or offensive capabilities? Sometimes those are very tough to tell the difference between. And why Russia has been so sensitive about this from the very beginning. Why what started it was Ukraine trying to get into NATO. Very important. What's Trump distancing from right now? NATO. Time to send clear signal to London about futility of its effort to ignite a conflict. Now, this is a Russian news agency that put this out. Today, just like it was on the eve of 2 world wars of the last century, London acts as the main instigator of global conflict. This is Russia's position. Meanwhile, the British themselves obviously hope to wait it out on their island. It is time to lure them out and send the perfidious Albion and its elites a message with all clarity. You are not going to make it. Very strong words, huh? According to information received by the SVR, the British leadership sees a threat to its interest in the promotion of a dialogue between the U.S. and Russia to resolve the Ukrainian conflict. London fears this could lead to a failure of the British strategy to contain Moscow, the central part of which is to control Ukraine. Its possible loss, according to British estimates, would undermine plans to create a Russophobic belt of limítrofe states in Europe and organize Russia's maritime blockade. London is extremely irritated by the fact that U.S. President Donald Trump's dialogue with Russia as a superpower and shows disregard to close allies. Starmer was stung by the U.S. president's provocative question during the joint press conference about the ability of the British nation to confront Russians alone. It wasn't provocative, it was truthful. The media and specialized NGOs, we're hearing a lot about those now, aren't we, non-government organizations, are tasked with demonizing Trump, portraying him as a man with a poor peacekeeping record and susceptible to Kremlin manipulation. A truer statement could actually not be made. Just think about the imagery you're seeing. Starmer not the only one. We've covered what Macron has said with his nuclear umbrella. Could its European allies fit underneath it? 300 versus 5,000. Again, just armament odds there. Not good odds. But now let's get to the headline story, shall we? And again, I'm going to go at a whole different level on what led up to this point. Peace talks today. But right before peace talks, X attacked. All these flyovers of Mar-a-Lago. Security breaches everywhere. Security clearances revoked. Biden's daily updates banned. And why? Did someone know something was coming? Because the mainstream media hasn't covered this for you yet. But this is what happened last night to Russia. That's what you get on the doorsteps to peace. Headline reads, Moscow comes under massive drone attack, leaving civilians killed and 3 injured, Russian officials say as they blame Ukraine on day of crunch peace talks with the U.S. Coincidental timing? Or provocation? Almost as if they don't want these peace talks to go through, huh? Russia's been bombarded in the biggest Ukrainian drone attack of the war, Moscow officials have said, on the same day as crunch talks are set to be held between Kyiv and the United States. The Russian Defense Ministry said air defenses shot down 337 Ukrainian drones over 10 Russian regions overnight, a record high, as Ukraine hit back at a series of brutal recent attacks launched by Moscow. At least 1 Russian civilian has been killed, several injured, with dramatic footage showing fires ranging from the exploding drones, including in high-rise residential buildings near Moscow. The most drones, 126, were shot down over Kursk across the border from Ukraine, parts of which Kyiv forces control, while 91 shot down over the Moscow region on the doorstep to peace talks. I don't believe in coincidence, as you well know if you follow me here. There is no such thing as coincidence. One could easily draw the conclusion that someone is attempting to assure these peace talks don't go well. Others will assert that that was a show of force to show why you have to negotiate with Ukraine. Without U.S. support? What are you negotiating? Trump's made it clear. If there is no ceasefire, if there is no peace talks, then there's going to be no peace. So what sword are you exactly waving? Because you don't have U.S. coattails on it anymore. But you got to understand history, right? You got to understand, can Putin be negotiated with? This was on the Libertarian Institute. Their answer is yes. And why? because history shows you he can. As President Donald Trump attempts to engage with Russia to end the conflict in Ukraine, supporters of the proxy war in Washington, Europe, and Ukraine claim that President Vladimir Putin is an evil dictator who cannot be trusted. Sound familiar? Isn't that what they call Donald J. Trump, President Trump? Even within our own congressional halls, the enemy of the people? The implication is that talking with the Kremlin is equivalent to surrender for Kyiv because Putin wants all of Ukraine and will use any pause in fighting to gear up for the next invasion. Do you believe that? Do you not believe that President Trump can stop him in his tracks? Because what was this all brought to the surface for? However, history disproves that assertion that Putin can't be negotiated with. For Moscow, the war was never about seizing Ukrainian territories or attempting to reconstitute the USSR, but pushing back on NATO expansion right to the Russian border when Ukraine was talked to become a member of NATO, allowing armament very close to the Russian border. Would you allow that? Would you allow China to work with Mexico to bring their weapons to our border, or China to work with Canada to bring weapons to the border? Of course you wouldn't. If you were President Trump, of course you wouldn't. Oh, that's right. Trump's working on tariffs with Canada and Mexico to stop drug trade and stop foreign influence. You see how it all kind of goes hand in hand? But if that's not enough, I'm going to extend now on this podcast and give you all the details of what led up to this and show you not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4, over 5 times when they had Russia and Ukraine and all but popped a champagne bottle. Peace talks were ready. We're good. We got a ceasefire deal. We're both really happy with this. But someone stepped in to stop it each time. Do you know who? This is the extended details we give over at Restricted Republic because it is imperative to understand history, to understand what the next chess move will be, and hopefully to avoid a catastrophic outcome, which it appears by all intents and purposes that is exactly what they are pushing towards right now. The biggest drone strike in the war happens the same day the peace talks are going to begin. You can't even make this stuff up, can you? I love you all. I hope you join me over at Restricted so you could see all the details if you crave knowledge. And it really does help in understanding and processing all of these moving parts. That is what I am there to provide you. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.